Welcome to the book of Romans. Thank you.
Thank you, Arlo. We are studying the book of Romans. I'm really excited about this. But in order for us to appreciate all that we are going to learn in this book, it's very important that we first understand some of the context behind it. So, quiz today. Who wrote the book of Romans?
Paul.
Paul. Yes, good job. Paul wrote this book when?
Around 56 AD.
Around 56 AD. Good job. When did Paul die?
62 AD.
Around 62 AD. So about 6 years before his death is when he put this letter together. Now, Paul is responsible for writing how many letters that made it into the New Testament?
13.
13. There are 27 books in the New Testament. Paul is responsible for 13. Whether he directly authored them or indirectly had somebody scribe them for him, he is responsible for 13 books in the New Testament. What number is Romans?
7.
7. Yes, Julius, you're on fire. Okay, so Romans was number 7. He wrote it from where?
Corinth.
Corinth. Corinth today would be considered Greece. He wrote it to?
Rome.
He wrote it to the church members in Rome, both the Jews and the Gentiles. Yes. He was on his, what missionary trip number was it?
3.
His 3rd missionary trip is when he wrote this letter. Now, what were 3 things that Paul was trying to accomplish by writing this letter?
To make sure that they knew he was coming.
Yes.
And prepare.
Prepare them for his arrival. Because Paul was determined, I am getting to Rome. Rome was considered
the center of the world.
Yes, the center of the universe. That's where everything was happening. That's what there. All the strength was there. Everything was happening in Rome. And Paul knew, if I am to grow the church, I've got to get to Rome. So he's determined he's going to get there. So the number one reason he wrote this book of Romans was to prepare them for his arrival. The second reason that he wrote this. Do you remember the exercise that we went through? Where if I were to play the game of telephone and I whispered something to Arlo and he whispered it to Otis and then to Julius to Winston, by the time it gets to Mama, does that story change a little?
Yeah.
So Paul...
To make sure that they know about the gospel.
Yes, they have to know the gospel. If churches are being planted along the way, they have to... The foundation of that church, it's critical that it's founded on truth. So Paul wants to set the record straight. He wants to clear the air. Hey, this game of telephone just kind of started happening. And a little bit of this and a little bit of that is starting to change. Let's get back to the basics and not lose sight of the gospel. Let's found these churches on truth. So Paul wants to get to Rome, prepare them for his arrival, make sure that they understand the true gospel. And the third reason was to promote unity between 2 groups. Who were the 2 groups? The Jews
and the
Gentiles. Yes. Now, Paul was born what? Was he born a Jew or a Gentile?
Gentile.
He was born a Jew. He was born a Jew. And he was born where?
Salome.
Tarsus. Tarsus. He's born in Tarsus. And what was his birth name?
Saul.
Saul. Paul's name at birth was Saul. He's Saul of Tarsus from Cilicia, which is modern day?
Turkey.
Turkey, yes. So born in Turkey, he is Greek speaking, and he knows the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, like the back of his hand. So prior to giving his life to Christ, he's a devout Jew, and he's doing what to the believers?
Persecuting them.
Persecuting them. He had a front row seat at whose death?
Stephen.
At Stephen's death. We read about that in the book of Acts.
Yep.
So Saul is sitting in the front row. He witnesses, encourages the stoning of Stephen. Not very long after that, he's on his way to a particular city, Damascus, to persecute more believers. And on that journey to Damascus, what happens?
A bright white light comes down and blinds him.
Blinds him.
And then he
drops him to his knees.
And then
he sees the face of who?
Jesus.
Jesus. And what does Jesus say to him?
Saul, Saul, why do you so persecute me?
Yes. And in that moment, what does Saul do?
Gives his life to Christ and he changes his name to Paul.
Yes, he gives his life to Christ, recognizing that Jesus is the Messiah. He now believes and accepts the truth as everybody else that he's been persecuting. So you've got this devout Jew, who is a part of what religious group?
The Pharisees.
He's the part of the Pharisees. They are persecuting believers. He's witnessed people get killed for their faith. And he gives up all of the comforts of the world to become a believer, knowing very well he's going to be persecuted. And it doesn't matter because he's so convicted in his faith. I'll take whatever persecution comes my way because I am not going to deny the truth that Jesus is the Messiah. That is remarkable. That is the man that writes this letter.
Yep.
I am so excited to see all of the truth, all of the wisdom, all of the conviction that Paul shares with us as we dive into the book of Romans.
Yep.
Good job today, boys.
Thank you.